Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I want to thank our State's Attorney, Ivan Bates, our Acting Police Commissioner, Rich Worley, our MONSE Director Jackson, our hardworking folks from the GVU for their deep collaborative efforts in carrying out Baltimore's group violence reduction strategy. As you all know, GVRS relies on partnership of law enforcement, community members, and service providers to give members of violent groups an opportunity to make a change, asking them to use resources and stop engaging in violence. It is going to take all of us to build a safer Baltimore. That is what GVRS is all about, bringing everyone to the table and then to offer individuals involved in group-related violence a way out. And if they choose to continue to carry out actions that inflict harm in our communities, hold them accountable for their actions. While we take proactive measures to reach out to group members and let them know that we care about them and we do not want to see them dead or in jail, if they do not stop committing acts of violence, we are going to follow up on them and we are going to hold them accountable by placing them in jail. The Cary Boys group included in this indictment made the decision to perpetuate pain and suffering in West Baltimore, acting as drivers of violence and contributing to the proliferation of deadly narcotics in Sandtown and the surrounding communities. I want to reiterate again, engaging in social networks committed to shooting others as a means to an end in the course of participating in the drug trade, committing other crimes of violence, or any other criminal behavior that endangers the lives of fellow Baltimoreans will not be tolerated, and there will be consequences. By getting these individuals off our streets, we are making our city safer for everyone who lives, works, plays, or worships in West Baltimore. Today's indictment is the product of solid detective work and intelligence gathering across this interagency partnership. These 8 individuals were identified as a part of the GVRS violence review process where MONSE, BPD, and the State's Attorney's Office, along with other public safety stakeholders, come together to examine violent activity and target engagement, whether it's through services or law enforcement action. Focused deterrence works when there are clear negative consequences for violent criminal behavior and opportunities for individuals at risk for being involved in violence to step away from the life. This is how we are and how we're going to continue to build a safer Baltimore. And while I'll let Director Jackson share the latest statistics, today's announcement is a product of our continued efforts to carry out this strategy in the Western. Again, I am deeply thankful to all of our partners here for taking these 8 individuals off of our streets in Baltimore and continuing this great work of GVRS each and every day. And now I will turn it over to our State's Attorney, Ivan Bates.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, for that kind introduction. I'm pleased today to be joined by our Mayor Scott, Commissioner Worley, Executive Director Jackson, and my major investigation unit to announce the arrest and indictments of 8 members of an alleged drug trafficking organization responsible for distribution of cocaine and fentanyl in and around the 1700 block of North Cary Street here in Baltimore. An indictment is not a finding of guilt. An individual is charged by indictment is presumed innocent unless and until they are proven guilty in trial. Once again, I say once again because we stood here a few months earlier and said we were back in business and we're going to hold individuals accountable. And we're doing that. We have an additional successful takedown of a criminal organization that was deeply damaging the surrounding community thanks to the skillful coordination between Baltimore Police Department and my MIU prosecutors. We're working together collaboratively as a team. These arrests have resulted in the removal of deadly weapons and drugs that instigate violence and trauma in the Sandtown-Winchester community. I want to thank our partners at BPD, my ASAs for helping us bring these individuals to justice, as well as MONSE as well. In January 2023, the Baltimore Police Department, GVU, began investigating a drug trafficking organization that was selling fentanyl and cocaine in the 1700 block of North Cary Street and surrounding areas. Detectives identified 8 individuals as members of the drug trafficking organization, all of whom were arrested, including Raheem Gaither, Jonathan Chambers, Gregory Carmichael, Tayshawn Wallace, Keyshawn Edwards, Stephon Martin, William Martin, and Everett Leroy Jones. During the course of this 5-month investigation, BPD and the GVU detectives seized, during their investigation, 2 firearms, approximately 1,145 vials of cocaine, and approximately 1,505 gel capsules of fentanyl and fentanyl mixture. Took that information and put together a deeper investigation now to go after search and seizure warrants. And this investigation culminated in the execution of 11 search warrants, including 4 search warrants for vehicles and 7 search warrants for residents located in Cockeysville, Windsor Mill, Elkridge, and Baltimore City. The following items were recovered during the execution of search warrants and arrest by the drug trafficking organization. This took place on June 6th of this year. 7 firearms, approximately a half kilo of suspected cocaine, approximately 890 grams of suspected cocaine, approximately 3,712 grams of suspected marijuana, and over 200,000 in various denominations. In total, 8 drug trafficking members were arrested, and they now face a combined over 800 years of jail time if they're found guilty of the charges. I'll now turn this over to Commissioner Worley.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm joined with me here today from the Group Violence Unit is Lieutenant Colonel Jason Callahan, Sergeant Tristan Ferguson, Sergeant Melvin Jones, and Detective Brendan Brown, and Detective Tyrell Tabran. In January 2023, the Baltimore Police Department's Group Violence detectives initiated an investigation into a drug trafficking organization, the Carey Boys, which operated in the Sandtown, Winchester neighborhood of the Western District. The organization is responsible for numerous acts of violence in the area of the Western District. Throughout the investigation and alongside our partners at the State's Attorney's Office, our officers executed over 41 search and seizure warrants, including multiple residents in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, along with numerous vehicles and cell phone data as well as bank accounts. So also thank our partners in Baltimore County for helping us during the execution of those search warrants. State's Attorney Bates already read out what they ended up getting out of it, but I want to reiterate again what we got from this really short investigation, which is exactly what we want from the group violence reduction strategy. With 7 firearms, about a half a kilo of suspected cocaine, approximately 890 vials of suspected cocaine, 100 gel caps, and more than $200,000 in U.S. currency. And we're still working on the investigation, which will probably reap us more benefit from more seizures. The joint effort and collaboration with the regional law enforcement agents resulted in 8 criminal charges on 8 members ranging from the ages of 19 to 59. 7 of those members had prior arrests, including various narcotics, armed robbery violations, as well as assault. In addition to the 8 members we focused on during the investigations, officers also made 6 additional arrests for individuals in this area who were contributing to this group, but not particularly a part of the group. BPD's Group Violence Unit, community organizations, local, state, and federal partners used on-the-ground intelligence to help identify and apprehend individuals and groups responsible for committing these violence acts. BPD is committed to working hand-in-hand with all of our partners to serve as force multipliers in addressing violent crime in Baltimore. I want to take the time to thank the men and women of the BPD who continue to go out each and every day to serve and protect, as well as our partners from the State's Attorney's Office, MONSE, and particularly the mayor for putting the group violence reduction strategy together. While some may question our ongoing efforts with this group violence reduction strategy, today's announcement indicates that we are keeping our foot on the gas and drive to make our neighborhoods safer. We have made more arrests this year based on today's date than we have last year, and we continue to go out and do the great work that the city needs. These arrests show our ongoing commitment to the mayor's group violence reduction strategy and that we are using all the tools available to reduce violent crimes in the city. I want to thank the entire team, and I look forward to many more successful partnerships that lead to reducing homicides and non-fatal shootings in Baltimore. I will now hand it over to Director Jackson.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. State's Attorney, Acting Commissioner, thank you. Good afternoon, folks. I'm joined by Stephanie Mavronis, MONSE's Chief of Staff, and by Terrence Nash, MONSE's Deputy Director for the Group Violence Reduction Strategy. I want to start by thanking our partners and the GVU for their tireless work to reduce violence in our city. This social network was identified through the violence review process as being one of the major drivers of violence in the Western District. GVRS works by zeroing in on group-involved individuals, like the 8 group members included in this indictment, and offering them a choice to turn away from a life of violence or face swift, certain, and legitimate consequences if they continue to terrorize the community. This strategy prioritizes addressing the primary drivers of violence in our communities. In fact, during our review of gun violence as a part of launching GVRS, it was found by our technical assistance providers that in the Western District, approximately 75% of homicides were group-related. This trend holds true in the Southwestern and the Central Districts, where 60% and 72% respectively of shooting incidents are tied to group violence. These groups are associated with the majority of homicides and shootings, but represent a very small percentage of the overall district population at about 2%. I want to pause here for a moment to take us back to the mayor's comprehensive violence prevention plan, a plan rooted in a public health approach whose framework was developed in partnership with many, including the CDC and the World Health Organization. By looking at safety through a lens of public health, we recognize that violence is the intentional use of physical force or power that either results in or has a high likelihood of resulting in injury, death, or harm. Let us be clear that GVRS is not just about gun violence. Group-related violence in our communities takes many forms. Through this group's connection to gun violence, as well as trafficking in deadly narcotics, poisoning our neighborhoods, they have actively made the decision to perpetuate harm and trauma through multiple forms of violence in the Sandtown-Winchester neighborhood. There is no joy in sending Black men to prison, and this group self-selected for focused enforcement attention because of their continued involvement in violence. Removing them from our streets is an important step in helping Baltimore realize its potential and giving residents back their right to live without fear. As the mayor said, this takedown is a product of our continued efforts to carry out this strategy in the Western District. Progress that MONSE and this administration are committed to achieving. Since launching GVRS in the Western District early last year, we saw a 34% aggregate decrease in homicides and non-fatal shootings in 2022, and we have maintained that reduction through our adherence to the strategy of using data to identify violent social networks, sending a message to those who are engaged in these networks that the violence must stop, offering services and hope in place of a life of violence, and delivering accountability when folks continue to engage in these violent social networks. We expect to see additional year-over-year reductions in homicides and non-fatal shootings in this district, and by the end of the calendar year, as we simultaneously look to expand GVRS to other districts. Since implementing GVRS in the Southwestern earlier this year, as of June 19th, we have seen a 22% year-over-year reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings in that district, and expect to meet our target of a 25% aggregate reduction during its first year of activation. This progress is a result of law enforcement action like the one we're talking about today, community partnership, and services offered by our partners, YAP and ROCA. As of June 19th, we've connected 91 individuals identified through GVRS to our service providers across the Southwestern and the Western District since launching GVRS. 27 of those participants were connected just this year. To help residents heal from the trauma caused by this group's decisions and the power vacuum in the community associated with this major law enforcement takedown, MONSE has deployed a coordinated neighborhood stabilization response in the surrounding area. This is what we mean when we say we're taking an all-hands-on-deck approach to public safety. These takedowns are an important piece of a much broader strategy. MONSE's committed to delivering on our promise to achieve sustainable public safety outcomes as a part of Baltimore's comprehensive violence prevention plan. which includes the mayor's dual integrated public safety strategies, GVRS, and community violence intervention. And we're seeing promising results. As of this morning, citywide year-to-date homicides are down 24%. 24%. And non-fatal shootings are down 9%. While we've been cautiously optimistic about going into the summer months, and we acknowledge that any life lost in our city is one too many, we're maintaining this momentum. Through the 22nd, homicides are down 53%, and non-fatal shootings are down 13% this month when compared to June last year. Everyone you see standing with me, every single public safety partner and agency in all of Baltimore is a part of this work. The co-production of public safety is not a spectator sport. And we need everyone to continue to give us information, to work with us to bring high-risk individuals to the table, and to let us know what you need in your neighborhoods to promote safety so that we can build a safer, better Baltimore. With that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Director, and thank you all again for your great work and the tough work that we do each and every day to make Baltimore safer, so that we're building on that 24% reduction in homicides and that 9% reduction in non-fatal shootings every day as we push for even bigger reductions. And with that, we'll take questions.
Mr. Mayor, would you tell us more about who are the Carry Boys, how do they operate, and what's the county connection?
Well, I'll turn it over to the state's attorney and the police commissioner, but I'll just say that we know that there won't be too much that they can say as we're talking about, David, that we're talking about an ongoing investigation that have cases. But I'll turn it over to you gentlemen to see how you got, who wants to respond first?
I'll
We'll go first, yes, sir.
One of the things, in reference to Carry Boys, this is an ongoing investigation. We're not going to go too much in depth with it, unfortunately, but you did hear from the police commissioner. 7 of the 8 do have criminal records. These are individuals that have come about based on some of their actions. We can't go much more in depth with that because it is ongoing, and most of all, they need to have a fair trial. So if I sit down and tell you, then we can sometime make the jury feel a certain way.
What's the nature of the county connection? Were they suppliers? Were they part of the Carry Boys?
This is what I'll say. Sometimes individuals may lay their heads in different areas. And let me just go ahead and leave it like that. And, but it's all connected. When you look at crime, it's connected, Baltimore County, Baltimore City. And so, the law of the streets, unfortunately, sometime in Baltimore City, bring individuals back to areas. And at the end of the day, we're concerned about the citizens living in Baltimore City, making sure that we're giving them the best neighborhoods to live in.
I have a two-part question. GVRS has been in the Western District for some time now. Why is this activity still happening there?
I think that, Alexa, that when we're talking about GVRS, and this is something that you guys can do research on, and when you're talking about focused deterrence, and you talk about focusing intensely on the area that has been riddled with violence since the 70s, right? You would be foolish to think that you'll have a program for a year and it's going to go away. What you should be highlighting is that an area that's 3.7 square miles and 37,000 people that is accompanying for some years 15, 16, 20% of the violence in the city of Baltimore is seeing that violence go down because all of us here are working together, focused on the folks that are committing it. We're going to go after all of those groups consistently, but never did you hear any of us say, and are we going to say that we are going to go and eradicate violence in the Western District with GVRS in 1 year. But when you talk about the Western District, the most violent in our city, seeing a 34% reduction, that's the headline. Everything else is just political fodder.
And had any of these 8 members been previously offered services with GVRS?
No.
Just a point of clarity, are all 8 men in custody right now? I see one doesn't have a booking photo. And next, I don't see any charges of homicides or non-fatal shootings. I'm sure that's all under investigation. How many shootings or homicides do you believe they might be connected to?
They're all in custody, and as you heard from the state's attorney, everything else will unfold as the investigation continues.
And what I would also say, thank you. When you say in custody, there are two individuals that, though, they did receive electronic home detention, 24/7 lockdown, and those are the decisions of the judges.
And just, I'll take a point of privilege to highlight the frustrations that we've had with home monitoring over the years, as you all know that. So we'll be monitoring that very closely because we've known that, unfortunately, folks of home monitoring seem to not be monitored sometimes.
Mr. Mayor, how long do you plan to keep the former police commissioner on the city payroll?
We've been through this with you guys before. We are not going to discuss personnel things. And what I will say again is that what we are doing here, there's no malfeasance. There's nothing out of order with has happened with police commissioners in the past. And I think what we're missing in this opportunity is to thank Commissioner Harrison for his great service to the city of Baltimore, the reforms, the efforts that have gone through for taking BPD into being a leader around the country, and also missing something that I've been here for a mini police commissioner exchange. Never have I seen the outgoing person welcome in the incoming person in a press conference. To see that happen should be the story that we're telling, that we're literally seeing the baton handed from one person to the next.
Any additional questions on the takedown?
Another hot topic here, the situation that unfolded yesterday with BG and those arrests, a lot of command staff was brought in, members of your mayor's office as well. Can you guys give me your take, both the acting commissioner and mayor, kind of what transpired yesterday?
Well, listen, we all know, as I led some of the biggest protests in the city's history, right, with 300 Men March, that I believe in folks' right to protest. I think what my office and BPD, what they've done, what we've done consistently over the past few years when folks are protesting, is allowing them the right to do that. But we had folks there explaining to folks that you can't prevent people from doing their legal job and entering in what is a construction site. BPD did their work. MONSE and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood did their work of explaining that to folks. And then, unfortunately, BPD had to take action after warnings. Folks can protest. They could have went across the street. They can protest until the cows come home. You're never going to hear me say that folks shouldn't do that. But I think if you saw the video, you saw what happened there. Our officers, all the staff, everyone out there actually acted in a very professional and mature manner.
I have a question about the weapons. Oh, sorry.
Yes, just what the mayor said, I'm really proud of the way the men and women acted. It was a joint effort, and we gave the citizens every opportunity to move. All they had to do was move to the left or the right and give them access to the property and where they needed to work, and we would not have done anything, but they refused, and we couldn't continue to have the work not get done.
And the last question on the takedown.
So nine weapons total, right? Is that correct?
It's 8?
Right.
Seven.
Seven total? Okay. Are you guys looking into whether they're connected to any crimes, and what can you tell us about them? Any stolen, any ghost guns?
All of that will come up. We'll trace everyone like we always do, and we'll tell you everything. What brand it was, we do know one is a ghost gun so far. We'll do that work in BPD's lab. We'll be doing that work with our federal partners. We know, statistically, we know probably most of them didn't come from Maryland, but we'll give you that information once it's available to us.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.